Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Infrastructure Network. My name is Chad Smeltzer. I am your host. Today's guest is Cassie Clancy, who's the Reline Pipeline Solutions CEO. Thanks for joining me, Cassie. I had a little slow
Yeah,
moment
thanks,
there.
Chad, for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you. We interviewed or had a podcast over a year ago we were talking about. And back then we were talking about the bidding process and
Yep.
all the things that were happening in the bidding world. And there was some concerns with how contractors were changing materials and things like that after the bid was awarded. And, it was kind of wild to hear some of the stuff that we were talking about back then. But how's things now and heading into 2025?
Uh, Busier than we've ever been, at least
Nice.
for our projects and our company. We had a very successful 2024, so I can only keep my fingers crossed that we continue that in 25. We've got a lot of projects in the pipeline. From a bidding perspective, nothing's changed. I still face I still face the same battles, if not worse. Things have gotten a lot more competitive. There's always a new product coming on the market and a new technology that somebody wants to promote and hasn't really been vetted and it hasn't really been tested and no one has really used it, but it's way cheaper. You and I've talked about that in the past. So that's going to be an ongoing uphill battle for anyone in my position who has experience with certain products and represents certain product lines. But I'm always going to have a competitor, and I'm okay with that. Competition's good, but it's more about education and what are the differences in the products, and me
Right.
making sure that contractors and engineers and owners know that and they see it. So
Yeah, well, that's important. Talking to you, Cassie, it's always a pleasure because you're one of those contractors. I feel it's ethical and is always out there looking for the owner's best interest and making sure they get the best of the best products and services. So it's always been a great time talking to you and getting to learn more. In 2024, what was some of the things that you had to overcome challenges wise?
Oh, I've still had to go against, contractors coming in or other manufacturers that have a similar product, maybe not the exact product, but getting in front of the owners and trying to prove or justify why the contractor could still use that product because it's similar enough, but it's so much less expensive that the owner can save money. But does the owner really save money? The contractor already won low bid. So the contractor is saving the money, not even the owner. At the end of the day, then I have to get back in front of the contractor and I have to really show the benefits or the differences in installation and methods so that you might save money on a different product because of the cost per foot, but what are you going to spend on installation? Extra days, extra equipment, extra people. So that's really where I feel like I've had to spend a lot of my time this last year.
Yeah, that sounds like just a lot of time and potentially money. That's
Yeah.
impacting on your projects and things like that. And I think that's where a lot of the owners of these projects don't realize all the work that it takes for a contractor to actually, once they see the project, and then they have to validate the actual data behind the project. Like, you were talking about the abstract data from like measurements and things like that of pipes and all that is impacted in the project details, right? That you actually have to go out and validate it and make sure it's accurate because as I know and is sometimes there can be miscalculations and some of those measurements can be off, and especially if you're using maybe some digital tools or um, I guess I was going to say like Esri platforms, things like that, or just kind of locating underground utilities and things like that. Those can be off. A lot of this data can be off in these projects. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of work
Yeah.
for a
And
contractor.
yeah, and I brought on a few product lines that are specific to pipe inspections for pressure pipes where you may think you need to line a pipe and rehab it and spend $1.5 million, but maybe you should spend the 150, 200, I'm just throwing numbers out, right?
Yeah.
150, $200,000, maybe inspect that entire line and then let's look at all the data as a whole and see what actually needs repaired. you may think it needs repaired and it might need it in certain spots, but maybe not the entire line. Maybe you've got another 5 years or 10 years for sections of that pipe that we can wait and you can budget for. So honestly, the inspection tools are so invaluable for public works departments, waters, utilities, because that way you're really getting a full picture of your pipe before you're spending all the money on rehabbing it. So it's almost like this is a maintenance issue. And that's been an educational piece for me, even getting out and actually getting to see these tools, going through the pipes and how they inspect them and all the data that we collect and the dashboards. It's really cool stuff.
Yeah, nowadays you can grab a lot of information about the pipes and what conditions they're actually in, and then determine what the repairs are required, right? So
Yeah.
a lot of it, though, back in the day, I remember when we were working on sewer data and putting pivot tables together for risk assessment. We literally were
Pivot tables.
pivot tables back in the day, right? It was wild.
Yeah. I don't miss those.
No, me neither. But it was interesting because the engineers back in that time were throwing what we call darts at the dartboard. They were like, "Oh, it's just an old
Yeah.
pipe. Let's fix it. Oh, it was an old pipe. Let's fix
Mhm.
it." And then we're like, "Wait, that's a clean pipe. It's still actually in good condition." Once we actually did the inspection, it was
Yeah.
very interesting to see how we were using, I guess, traditional methods to determine pipe conditions and stuff like that. It's pretty wild. But yeah,
Yeah, and there's so many cool technologies out there now that we can provide. So when I start to work with an engineer or even, like a water department, a sewer department, I give them a budgetary price on rehab, but then I always now just go, let's just provide you an inspection, just like snapshot of budgeting for an inspection. So you guys can make a decision. I mean, I would always encourage the inspection first. It's so much less expensive. Then you have that. And if you inspect the pipe every 5 years, we'll see what's happening with that pipe every 5 years or every 3 years. Take, a snapshot in time, but then you're building a plan based on real data and a full picture. And you're not just going, okay, in 5 years, we're going to budget to line the whole pipe. Like I said, you might be able to section that out depending on the condition. So that's those technologies are out there and they're really cool. So that's been a fun addition to my product lines on the pressure pipe side.
it's important.
Stormwater, my job hasn't really changed in the how long have I been doing this now? 7 years. Stormwater is we just put our waders on and we walk through the darn thing and take pictures.
It's the easiest way to do it, I would
Unless
assume.
it's too small. I mean, I'm not walking through a 14-inch pipe, then you're just sticking a camera through it. But
No way.
yeah, like
Yeah.
that's yeah, that technology really isn't gonna change much for stormwater.
I've always found it interesting when we were talking about pipe data and pipe conditions. When I was doing with working with the engineering firms and the contractors and stuff, we started realizing that some of the owners were giving us 5-year old, 6-year old, 7-year old data from like when they inspected it with a camera back then. I was like, that could have completely changed. 5 years, 3 years, 2 years is even a big
Yeah.
difference when it comes to rehabilitation. Do you
Mhm.
get some of that stuff still?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I
really?
mean, oh, whether it's stormwater or whether it's pressure pipe, some of the inspection, like, I mean, there has been public works departments that they send me an inspection report, and I'm like, wow, this was from 2017.
Oh,
Like, that is, what's the condition of it now? And they're like, well, we don't know. And I'm like, well, if it was this bad in 2017, you guys are really taking a risk if it hasn't done anything about it. So yeah, we still see that. That isn't changing.
it's
Mm-mm.
amazing that the stuff you actually see, and you're like, hasn't how hasn't that failed? You look at the conditions, it's already collapsed some of the sections and things like that.
Yep.
It's wild sometimes when you see some of these pipes, and you're like, how is that still in service? How is not a priority to get repaired now?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Well, and there is some pipes that we look at that by the time I get involved, they know that they're almost at failure.
Hmm.
So it's more of an emergency to get them fixed. And then there's a different bucket of money, which is interesting. They knew that it was a problem 6 years ago, but they couldn't budget for it because it wasn't a problem enough. But as soon as it's an emergency, then it pulls from a different funding source because then it's an emergency. So now we've got the money to fix it because we let it go so long. And it's a game. It's a risky game, but it's a game. So,
I just never, well, I understand there's so many loopholes and so many ways to get around procurement, right? Because obviously
right.
you don't always want to deal with the process of going through procurement. So you let it get to failure, right? Because it's easier. And then you bypass the procurement process, it goes to emergency bidding, and then you got to get it
Yep.
done. And that's how you get around that. That's sad, actually, because you
Yeah.
could impact someone's life. Think about that. If a bridge is going to fall apart, or a pipe's going to sink in, creating a sinkhole, like who knows? Like some of these things that could
Right.
potentially happen down the road. So we really are taking a lot of risk on some of these projects, I guess, that should be done earlier than sooner than later. Let's put it that way. Um,
Well, and I will say that I've seen, at least in my territory, I can't say this for the whole country. I don't cover the whole country, but I have seen a lot more proactive
mm,
maintenance happening. City, not just cities, DOTs. I mean, I've seen a lot more proactivity going, hey, we've brought in a lot of extra tax money. We also know these are problems and we would rather stay in front of it. Typically, what I've seen is that they've had a failure and it has compromised something. So then they jump on a little more proactive moving forward so that they don't have that happen again. And it sucks that it takes an emergency or some bad situation, but it's happened where then they're much more proactive with spending their money and fixing stuff that they know is going to be a problem down the road.
yeah, yeah, that's important. We just need to get more proactive. We need to get better data. From what I hear, is still an
Mhm.
issue, and we just need to have validated vendors and understanding of products and new products that are coming to market. It sounds like there's a lot of new products coming to market these days that from overseas countries and stuff like that. I get hit up with vendors coming in from New Zealand recently that want to get into the market of in America, and I was like, it's wild out here. They're like, what is going on? I was like, it's hard to get in to this space. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, I went to No Dig this year. Well, this I guess it was 2024. We're in 25. Hey, so I went to Rhode Island and went to the No Dig show. This year it's in Denver, and we'll be there again. But there's I couldn't tell you how many new technologies. And then afterwards, I mean, my phone was blowing up with, "We'd love you to represent us." And I'm like, I don't even know what, like, this hasn't been vetted. This hasn't been tested. This hasn't been, where's the first project in the United States? Like, let me come out and actually see it installed. And like, what kind of ASTM, ASHTO certifications does this meet? Like, I have so many questions. And no, I don't bring on products that I don't feel strongly about and that I'm not going to represent a product that I don't have trust in yet. And that
Yeah,
takes, I mean, trust is a big thing, right? There's got to be evidence, there's got to be testing, there's got to be experience. So,
yeah, it's your
but
word.
we're going to keep running into that. So
Yeah,
that's an uphill battle for manufacturers and distributors like myself, that we're going to always have a competitor coming in that's going to say, I can do the same thing, but the engineers need to say, prove it.
that's it.
Where's the testing? Where's the experience? How many references do you have? How many jobs have you installed this on? What other owners can attest that this works as the way you say it works?
Yeah, there's no doubt that as business owners and as a sales developer, and the last thing you want is a product that you don't know anything about. You sell it, and then all of a sudden it just causes a problem, and it doesn't work the way you said it was supposed to work, and then your
Yep.
credibility goes downhill. You are not going back to that utility owner and selling them anything else if something happens.
No,
So there's a lot of
no.
risk for us. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. You want to be a trusted resource. That's one thing that my team has always, we could represent a lot more products than we do. And there are jobs that we've walked away from because they wanted to go with a less expensive product, and that's fine. We didn't sell it to you. And did you get the support you needed? I mean, we hope you call us on the next job, but at the end of the day, it's hard to hear like, oh, that didn't go the way we wanted. We're like, well, we might have told you so, but we're not going to tell you so.
It's so true, so true. But yeah, I definitely think there has to be a mechanism for validating these products and services and things like that that you and I have been talking about. We'll get there
Yeah.
down the road, but it's exciting to just it's an exciting place. I would assume as a contractor because there's so much work potentially coming, and there's so much opportunities now What's it like for you to keep up and like grow the business and maintain the business, in the current environment we're in?
Well, so for Pipe Reline, we had obviously I was telling you this, Chad. We had our best year in 24, and I can only hope 25 is just even better based on the projects that we have been working on and what we know is coming. Um, I brought on a full-time employee in December. Bailey Owens joined our team as a marketing and sales coordinator.
Nice.
So, because I'm to the point where I'm more focused in operations and sales now. I can't keep up with the marketing, and she kicks butt at it. So, I'm going to let her stay in that lane. But she's also bringing on like tools for us where as we grow as a company to stay organized and to stay on top of things, the more projects we have and the more, potential leads that we have coming in and requests, that's going to be where she's going to help me manage that on the back end.
Yeah.
And, so it's going to be interesting to see how 2025 with what we've got hopefully coming in the pipeline. Another thing I've really focused on in 24 is educating the engineers on the pieces of the bids. You deal with full bid docs. I deal with a very small section. I usually deal with just material specifications.
Yeah.
But what I've encouraged now, having run into it over the years of doing this, is contractor specifications.
Mm.
Don't just specify a material that then some contractor who has never used the material and wins the bid, but sees that there's a cheaper, maybe kind of equal or similar product they could use. Don't let them come in and switch products when they've never even used the material. Make sure that there is a specification on contractors' experience. I highly encourage it. Make them have so many linear feet installed, have an X amount of references, a minimum of 3 references for projects with those owners that can testify to their experience and how it went, so that you're not getting a contractor who's never used a product, who's never installed a product, maybe never even slip lined or rehabbed before. They may have, their experience may have been boring pipe, which is no offense to the boring contractors,
Yeah.
but that's not rehabbing, that's not slip lining, that's a whole different experience.
Right.
So that's been a big piece for me too, that going into 25 I'm just going to keep
That
just being a broken record about.
I mean, you have to be. I think
Yeah,
that's the nature of the beast that we're in. I remember doing that.
yeah,
And you have to protect your spec, your project that you worked on, and you got all
yeah,
these engineers educated about it. Right? It's like, guys,
yeah,
this is it. Like, you validated, you vetted it. Like, don't let it go to a competitor. And we used to have the same thing. Like, it was a geopolymer manhole rehab product. Yeah, it's been validated, right? We used it in multiple cities and validated, reference checked, and everything was good. And then all of a
yeah,
sudden, a big company came out with a magical product, and they labeled it, they named it something like polymer to make it seem like it was a part of the geopolymer product line.
family,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I was like, has anyone really tried this thing? And the only way we got them out was we had to put in the lab testing into the specs to eventually be like, hey, okay, fine. That's, if you have this geopolymer, let's test it out. Let's see if it
yeah.
actually is geopolymer. Sure enough, they'd back out of the spec. So I mean, that's how you have to be like creative in specification building. It's like, what can you put in there to make sure that you protect the hard work you put into it, that kind of stuff.
Well, and it falls back to the owner, like, I mean, an outside engineering firm can usually is going to put together in a lot of situations, because the public works department or the sewer department, they might have one engineer, but you can't put all the projects on them to put out 300 and $400 or 400 page bid docs, right?
Right.
So that, what the outside engineer might specify from XY engineering company, and what the owner knows very little about maybe is, then when the contractor comes in and says, well, this, and they try and show the owner engineer this is a similar equal, and they see the price, that price, it's like, oh, we can save you money. But if I already bid it and won it based on the specified product, how am I saving the owner money? I'm saving myself money as the contractor, because
Yeah.
that price is already set. You've already been awarded that based on the price you bid.
Yeah.
So that's where, like, don't let them fool you.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to give them a change order and they're now not you're not going to pay them as much? I don't know that I've ever seen that happen. The change orders are you're paying them more for something else that they found, like an extra 10 feet they need to repair,
Yeah.
and now they need 10 feet more of a material that wasn't in the dock, and then they're going to change order it and get paid more per foot for that.
And people learn, contractors, they learn the loopholes, they learn the system. And then
Yeah.
once they get it from one city, they think they can go to the next one and do the same thing, next one and do the same thing.
Yep.
And then if you hit 4 or 5 of those cities that give you those change orders and they keep just giving you the money, you're just going to keep doing it. It's just
Yep.
the nature of the beast. And that's the sad
Hmm.
part of, our world of civil infrastructure and construction. It's just like, yeah, change orders are a part of it, but it's got to be validated, a valid change order, not just something that because you want to make more money on the project and things like that. And there's
Right.
got to be some oversight. I think the engineers, and we beat up on engineers a lot, and it's not. I sometimes feel like I do, but it's one of those things where after you start thinking about all the responsibilities they take on, the designing, the specifications, the building, the
Yep.
procuring, the managing, the overseeing of the projects, and it's a lot. Like, and I look at the way they're paid too, and I'm like, they're not making a ton of money for doing like they're handling $1 million projects like constantly throughout the year, and it feels like they're just maybe they feel underappreciated and just like, why do I care? I'm just trying to get this on the street and get it bid and get it done. I don't care, right?
Yeah.
Is that kind of the mindset? Like, you wonder.
Well, you know what I've seen recently, especially in the last year with a lot of the projects that I've done in my territory, is a lot of the junior engineers, which I think is fantastic. I'm always like, please come out and look at this job, or let's walk the pipe together.
Yeah.
Let's go look at the project together, which, those young engineers are like, yes, let's go look at it. And, I show them like how I measure and what I look for in inspections. And then, when we actually go to install, please come out on the install. Like,
Yeah.
whether it's an hour each day or whatever you can get to, you're going to learn something, and you're going to actually see what it is you wrote in these bid docs. You're going to see what it looks like for slip lining or for grouting or for building bulkheads, or whatever that looks like, what flange adapters are. Like, you may have never seen one installed. You maybe have never seen a pressure pipe reeled in through an existing pressure. Like, it's very cool when they are curious, and they, especially younger ones that want to learn because they're new to it, and they're
Yeah.
like, we're going to be doing this for years. So I love that.
I think that's where the education system that we have for engineering is not correct. Death by PowerPoint, going to a trade show, sitting in a presentation, and trying to get CEUs or PDHs that way.
PDH, yeah.
PDH, yeah. It's it's like you get your PDHs, but you're not getting experience of construction. Like, you got to get out there. You got to like understand it. You got to
Yep.
be in the trenches with the contractors, because you'll be able to learn so much. Like you just said, it's so much
Yeah.
more valuable than
I had a female engineer here locally when I did an install in August. She was on the job site every day, and
Hmm.
she was there with her notepad, and she was taking notes, and she was just so curious, and I thought it was amazing.
We need to find more of those engineers.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
do. We need to find
Yeah.
like the ones that are ethical, professional. They just want to learn. They want to build quality infrastructure. And just,
Mhm.
man, where can we find these engineers that are out there? That's the key. And then we're
Yeah.
learning. We're losing so many now due to retirements, and these engineering firms are struggling to keep up. It's going to be interesting to see how we fill that gap with the loss of all these experienced engineers that are going to
Right.
be leaving the workforce. It's going to be interesting.
Mhm.
But yeah, Cassie, we're getting towards the end of this show. What else could you do to tell us about your New Year's resolutions? Like, what's the plan like going into the new year?
Well, I have a job install in 2 days that, I'm gonna be going to, and that's kicking off my new year, so I have a feeling I'll be doing a lot more traveling this year just with some of the projects that I have going on, that should be coming out to bid here shortly. I know Michael, my sales guy in Denver, literally just messaged me at 7 o'clock this morning, and I probably sent him 4 inquiries yesterday, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I just drove back at 11 p.m. last night from my install. I'm going to get to all of these this morning." So that's how our New Year's is starting.
Coming out, I'm blazing.
It's
Yeah,
We're going to come out, and that's okay. Like, we're here for it. Now we got Bailey on board, and
it's
we have a
exciting.
little more help. So if I can keep growing my team like that, I'm pretty happy as a business owner.
That's it right there. That's the best.
Yeah.
So, well, thank
And
you
then
for
we
what
get to
you
work
do.
with you to start getting all of our product lines certified.
I tell you that the more and more you and I talk, and other people have talked, that it's a matter of timing, and I think we're on that right track of getting some kind of qualification certification process in place to help these engineers to validate
Yep.
products and services, and you know get the best of the best out there for these owners because they want it. I mean, you're going to spend millions of dollars to fix something. You don't want it to fall apart in 2 to 3 years. That's for
Yeah.
sure. So
And my other focus for 25 too is Bailey and I are building like a program for, I don't want to call it lunch and learns, but it's similar to that, right? Like
yeah,
you can, you want to, you need a PDH as an engineering firm, and you want to learn more about just relining as a holistic, or slip lining, or pipe inspections. We have all these different presentations that I can come out and give you, Michael can come out and give you, so that that educational piece can be the focus of 2025. So then when you're looking at projects, you're like, oh, I have a resource. It doesn't mean I'm going to have a product for everything, right? But
mhm,
hopefully I know enough people now after 8 years of doing this, 7 years in the industry, I can hopefully point you in the right direction, whether it's you, whether it's a different manufacturer, someone that can maybe answer your questions. That's, I mean, the more networking I do, the better, just so that when I get a call, I'm like, hey, I can't help you, but this person can.
yes.
So that's cool too, just to keep kind of growing your network.
It is cool. I appreciate you. I appreciate all the work you're doing, even though you're out in the western part of the United States, and I
Yeah.
don't get to
And
hang
one
out
of
it
these
with you.
days we're going to meet at the
Someday,
same spot.
someday we will be. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Well, thank you so much for joining the Infrastructure Network podcast show today. And how can people get a hold of you if they need to reach out?
Info at Pipe Reline Solutions, or you can just reach me at Cassie.Clancy at Pipe Reline Solutions. My phone number is even on the website. You guys can call. I think even if you call the generic number, it goes to my cell phone. So when you're a small business, you kind of wear all the hats. So
You do. That's for
I'm
sure.
easy to get a hold of. I'm on LinkedIn all the time. And I know you'll tag me on this on
Oh,
LinkedIn.
for sure. You're definitely going to get tagged, and we'll
Yeah.
put this out. And well, thank you so much for being here today, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Infrastructure Network.